My friends, today I want to speak to the very core of your being, not to impress you, but to ignite you. Too many of us are living like prisoners chained by the need for approval. But you are not made to be measured by the opinions of others. You were created with purpose, with power, and with the fingerprints of heaven all over your life. It's time to break free. The approval of man is fleeting, but the call is eternal. Have you ever found yourself checking your phone again and again? Not because you were expecting an emergency, but because you were hoping someone liked your post? Have you felt your spirit rise with someone's praise and crash just as quickly with their silence or disapproval? We all have. It's a quiet hunger that creeps into the heart, the need to be seen, to be validated, to be told you're enough. But let me tell you something that will shake the dust off your soul. The applause of people is temporary, but the calling God has placed on your life is unshakable and forever. You weren't made to live for claps. You were made to live for a cause. And that cause is greater than you. It's higher than trends. It's deeper than feelings. The approval you're searching for in people cannot compare to the power of walking in the divine purpose written over your life before you were even born. While others scroll by your life, God has already authored every chapter of it. His plan is not a reaction, it's a revelation. Look around. How many lives are caught in the prison of performance? We shape ourselves to fit into boxes we were never meant to stand in. Also, that someone might notice us, might say we matter. But hear me now. You already matter. You matter because the creator of the universe breathed his spirit into you. You are not a mistake, not an accident, not a background character in someone else's story. You are chosen. You are called. And that calling does not change just because people don't applaud it. When you live for human approval, you become a slave to inconsistency. Today they love you. Tomorrow they forget you. Today they cheer. Tomorrow they criticize. But the voice of God does not waver. He does not call you based on popularity. He calls you based on purpose. And his call is not a whistle. If you let man's opinion define your worth, you will never be at peace. But if you anchor your heart in God's calling, nothing can move you. Not rejection, not failure, not silence. Because you know deep that your life is not about applause. It's about, and when your heart burns with divine purpose, you no longer need the world to notice you. So shake off the need to be approved. Lay down the hunger to be liked. And rise up in the fire of your calling. You have a race to run. You have souls to reach. You have a mission to fulfill. And none of it depends on who follows you, only on who called you. Don't trade your eternity for temporary validation. Stop seeking approval. Walk boldly in your purpose and never look back. You were not created to fit in. You were called to stand out. Let that sink in. You weren't made to blend in with the background noise of the world. You weren't designed to mimic everyone around you. And deep down, you know it. That constant tension in your soul. That restlessness in your spirit when you try to walk like them, talk like them, think like them. That's not discomfort, it's a divine alarm. It's heaven reminding you you were set apart. We live in a world that rewards conformity. Be like everyone else, and you'll be accepted. Speak the way they speak. Live the way they live. Laugh at what they laugh at, and you'll be liked. But here's the hard truth. When you live to be accepted by the world, you'll often find yourself rejected by your purpose. Because your purpose was never meant to blend in, it was meant to shine in contrast. It was meant to disrupt the darkness, not disappear into it. If you've ever felt like you don't quite belong, let me offer a truth that will set you free. You don't. Not because there's something wrong with you, but because there's something right with you. God didn't craft you in his image just to see you copy someone else's. He wired you uniquely. Your voice carries a tone no one else can replicate. Your journey, your pain, your story, it all points to a mission that only you can fulfill. And let me warn you, standing out isn't easy. It will cost you. You may lose friendships. You may be misunderstood. You may walk through seasons of loneliness. But hear me loud and clear, obedience to your calling is worth the cost. Because the truth is, it's not the crowd that changes the world, it's the courageous. It's the ones willing to say, even if I stand alone, I'll stand in truth. It's the ones who rather walk in obedience than drown in acceptance. The world doesn't need more echoes. It needs voices of conviction. It needs hearts that burn with righteousness, minds that think with clarity, souls that refuse to sell out. And that might mean you have to walk away from what's popular. It might mean you choose the narrow road when everyone else is racing down the wide one. But that road, that narrow path, it leads to purpose. It leads to peace. It leads to a life that heaven can look down on and say, well done. So don't be ashamed to be different. Don't apologize for the fire in your bones. Don't hide your light just to keep others comfortable. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to lead, to build, to love, to serve, to reflect the image of a God who was never ordinary. You were called to stand out. So rise, stand, shine, and don't look back. Chasing lights can leave you empty. Living your purpose fills you with fire. Let's get honest. How many times have you posted something only to check your screen over and over again, waiting, watching, hoping? You start with confidence, but minutes later, you're measuring your worth by the number of hearts, shares, or comments. And if the response is small, you feel small. That's the trap. The very thing that promises to lift you up ends up draining you. It's like trying to satisfy your hunger by looking at food you can see it, but you're still starving. Because likes can never feed your soul. Let me say it loud and clear. You were not created for clicks, you were created for a calling. You weren't made to impress the world, you were made to impact it. The validation you're chasing from others cannot replace the affirmation God already declared over your life. He didn't say you are loved if enough people agree. He said you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Before anyone could like you, he already loved you. Before you ever proved yourself, he already called you. The problem is, when you live for likes, your life becomes a performance. You post for applause. You speak for approval. You move for attention. And that's a dangerous way to live because the crowd is always changing. One day they praise you, the next they forget you. But when you live from purpose, something shifts. You stop performing and you start producing. You stop begging for validation and you start walking in vision. And that fire inside you, it starts to grow. Purpose will keep you moving when nobody's watching. Purpose will sustain you when the applause dies down. Purpose will fuel you when others walk away. That's the difference. External approval is fragile, but divine purpose is solid. It doesn't fluctuate with trends. It doesn't vanish when you mess up. And it doesn't wait for permission. It moves with passion. Friend, there's a reason your soul feels restless when you're only chasing approval. It's because you were made for more. You weren't made to be seen. You were made to shine. And sometimes the most powerful seasons of your life will be the ones where no one's clapping, because that's where God is doing his deepest work. That's where purpose is built. That's where fire is born. So, stop living for the next light. Stop bending yourself into shapes that please the crowd but betray your calling. Instead, chase your purpose. Feed your fire. Walk in the assignment that heaven has written with your name on it. Because when you live in your purpose, you don't just feel full, you overflow. The voice of the crowd is loud, but the whisper of God is life-changing. Have you noticed how loud the world has become? Everyone has an opinion. Everyone wants to be heard. The noise is relentless, scrolling headlines, endless notifications, voices shouting what you should be, what you should chase, who you should become. And if you're not careful, the roar of the crowd will drown out the one voice that actually matters, the voice of the one who made you. We've been conditioned to react to noise. We move with the momentum of public opinion. We shift with the waves of popularity. And before we know it, we've built a life based on what others expect, not on what God has spoken. But let me ask you something. What if the voice you're listening to isn't leading you to life? What if all the noise is a distraction from your destiny? The crowd will cheer. Or that's the truth. Their loyalty is shallow. Their applause is fickle. But God's voice, it's consistent. It's gentle. It's true. And though it may come as a whisper, it carries the weight of eternity. One whisper from God can change the direction of your entire life. One quiet moment in His presence can bring more clarity than 1,000 opinions from the crowd. Some of the most powerful moves of God in Scripture didn't happen in the chaos, they happened in the quiet. Moses didn't hear God in the thunder, but in the fire. Elijah didn't find Him in the wind or earthquake, but in the still small voice. That whisper, it doesn't scream to compete with the world. It waits for you to slow down, to listen, to lean in. But here's the challenge. The whisper of God can't be heard over the noise unless you're intentional. You have to turn down the volume of the world to tune into heaven. That means stepping away from the constant noise. That means choosing stillness in a culture that worships hustle. That means saying no to the pressure of performing as to the peace of presence. There's a reason your soul feels heavy when you're surrounded by voices but starving for truth. Because the crowd can only echo opinions, God speaks identity. The world shouts what you lack. God whispers who you are. And when you hear Him, really hear Him, everything changes. You stop striving. You stop doubting. You stop living like you're lost. The loudest voices don't always carry the most truth. So, don't chase the crowd. Chase the call. Don't follow the noise. Follow the whisper. Because in that still, sacred space, God doesn't just speak to you. And that voice is the only one worth following. Your identity is rooted in God, not in people's opinions. Let that hit your heart for a moment. Because too many of us are out here trying to find ourselves in broken mirrors reflecting back fragments, distortions, and lies. We're handing our worth to people who didn't create us, and then wondering why we feel so lost. But how can one else define you when they didn't design you? If you're constantly chasing approval, constantly reshaping who you are to fit into someone else's mold, you're not living, you're performing. And performance is exhausting. You become whatever they want until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's staring back. That's not freedom. That's not identity. That's bondage disguised as belonging. People will always have opinions. They'll size you up. They'll put you in boxes. Too loud, too quiet, too bold, too shy, too much, not enough. But you were never called to be what people expected. You were created to be who God intended. And His opinion of you hasn't changed. He sees you through the eyes of grace, not judgment. Through purpose, not pressure. When you know who you are in Him, something powerful happens. You stop needing people to complete you. You stop asking the world, am I enough? Because you know, deep in your soul, He already said yes. You are loved. You are chosen. You are set apart. That identity can't be canceled, can't be silenced, and doesn't fluctuate with feelings. It's eternal. Here's the truth. Opinions are unstable. One moment, you're well. The next, you're forgotten. But identity in Christ, that's solid ground. That's peace that doesn't make sense. That's confidence that doesn't shake. When storms come, you're anchored. When people walk away, you don't crumble. Because you weren't standing on their words. You were standing on His. It's time to stop looking outward for what can only be settled inward. No more letting people's acceptance or rejection dictate your direction. No more building your worth on applause that fades. You've been called by name, formed with intention, sealed with purpose. If you're going to walk in that calling, you've got to stop living for permission. You already have the approval that matters. You already have access to the throne. You already belong not because of what you've done, but because of who He is.